Hey, good evening. This is Kathy from Brainlair Books coming to you with the We Are Here virtual launch party. I'm so excited to be here with Tami Charles, Bryan Collier, and Kwame Alexander, the king himself. He came all the way from Hollywood to be with us tonight, and we're so excited about that. All right, I'm going to read our code of conduct, and then I'll read the bios, and I'm going to hand this over to Kwame for the rest. All right. So at Brainlair Books, we aim to build a stronger community centered around the discussion of inclusive literature. Our goal is to create an environment where traditionally minoritized voices feel welcome to participate, speak up, ask questions, and engage in conversation. This requires a harassment free and inclusive environment that recognizes the worth of every participant. We invite all those who participate to help us create safe and positive experiences for everyone. All right, so first up, we have Tami Charles. Tami is the New York Times bestselling author of numerous books for young readers, including the picture book All Because You Matter, which is number one in this picture book series. So make sure you get that book. I dropped the link in the chat so you can grab it for yourself. And she has the novels Muted, Like Vanessa, and Becoming Beatrice. In her teens and early 20s, Tami enjoyed a taste of fame as a member of an all-girl R&B trio. She will sing for us tonight. They performed for Boyz II Men, BET, and Showtime at the Apollo, and had a one-hit wonder on the radio. After college, she worked as an educator for 13 years before pursuing her childhood dream of becoming an author. And we thank you for doing that too. All right. Next up, we have Bryan Collier. Bryan loves to paint. He has successfully channeled his creative energy and love of art into an illustrious career as a children's book illustrator and writer. He began painting at the age of 15 and landed a scholarship to attend Pratt Institute in New York. He's won 4 Caldecott honors for Rosa by Nikki Giovanni, Martin's Big Words by Doreen Rappaport, Trombone Shorty by Troy Andrews, and Dave the Potter by Laban Carrick Hill. His first book, Uptown, won the Coretta Scott King Award and the Ezra Jack Keats Award. And he's won 5 more Coretta Scott King Awards and 3 Coretta Scott King honors. Whew, that's amazing. Good job. All right. Last but not least, we got Kwame Alexander. Kwame is a poet, educator, producer, and #1 New York Times bestselling author of 36 books, including The Door of No Return, An American Story, Becoming Muhammad Ali, co-authored with James Patterson, Rebound, which was shortlisted for the prestigious UK Carnegie Medal, the Caldecott Medal, and Newbery Honor-winning picture book, The Undefeated, illustrated by Kadir Nelson. He also has his Newbery Medal-winning middle grade novel, The Crossover. He's a regular contributor to NPR's Morning Edition, and he's the recipient of numerous awards, including the Lee Bennett Hopkins Poetry Award, the Coretta Scott King Author Honor, 3 NAACP Image Award nominations, and the 2017 inaugural Pat Conroy Legacy Award. In 2018, he opened the Barbara E. Alexander Memorial Library and Health Clinic in Ghana as part of Leap for Ghana, an international literacy program he co-founded. And he is the writer and executive producer of the crossover TV series on Disney+. I am so excited to welcome the 3 of you here tonight. That was just like a who's who in literature right there. That was amazing. And this is going to be everything. So I'm going to get off the screen, turn it over to Kwame. Let me know when you want me to show the book, and I will do that.
Thank you, Kathy from Brainlair Books. Yeah. Look, I got to say this. When I started writing children's books, I was like, one day I want to be as meaningful and significant as Bryan Collier. That's what I said. And in particular, it was the Rosa book he did with Nikki. I was like, whoa, just blew my mind, Bryan. Like you have always been an inspiration for me. And I'm just so grateful to be able to have this conversation with you. And the writer of We Are Here, who is always here. She's always in the room, in the moment. She is a dynamic writer. She and I are dear friends, and I'm just so glad to be able to share this stage with you all. I want to get started by saying hello, Bryan. Hello, Tami.
Hello.
Y'all look real fly. This is going to be a lovely evening. I want to start off by saying when I was 10 years old, I went to a school in Brooklyn, New York. My dad was the headmaster which was the worst thing ever to have your father as the principal of your school.
Ooh.
But he made us memorize this poem. I am the black child. You hold in your hands my destiny. You determine whether I shall succeed or fail. Give me, I beg you, a world where I can stand tall and proud. I was 10 years old. I still remember it. Sometimes there are words that enter our lives and are so powerful that they stay with us. I feel like these books y'all are doing, all because, we matter. We are here. I feel like these words stay with us. Tami, are these poems? Is this a poem? Where did this come from?
I'm a poet, and you know it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's poetry, but it's got some musicality to it. I didn't intend for it to be that way. It just kind of flowed.
Did you write it for your son?
So it started with this book, All Because You Matter. And let me just add, you don't need to read this one to read We Are Here, though, I encourage it. But this book came to me in a dream. And it was like all these words that I had bottled up that I wanted to say to my son, because I noticed as early as kindergarten, he started asking me these questions, like really tough questions. And it was ironically, it was around Dr. King Day, which, is tomorrow. In kindergarten, he learned about Dr. King and he was fascinated about Dr. King. But his 5-year-old self could not understand why the bad guys treated him unfairly. So at 5 years old, I realized as a parent, oh gosh, I'm going to have like the talk with my son. I didn't expect it to be that early. But there we were having these conversations. And I knew that I wanted to write something for him, but the idea didn't really come until he was about 8. And like I said, the words came in a dream. I saw the art. I saw that face. And I was like, oh, that's Bryan Collier's work. And I knew his work because, like you said, you have your favorite of his. Dave the Potter is my favorite. And I wrote the words down so fast and I sent it off to my agent. That was on a Friday. By Monday, Scholastic was like, let's do this. So that's the only time that's ever happened for me.
Right.
But, when I wrote this one, when I wrote All Because You Matter, I said, okay, I'm done. Good, great. It's out in the world. But then the pandemic hit and we were all stuck at home and things got real ugly online, in the media. And now my son was older and wiser. And now he had more questions. Why are they treating these people like that? They're only peacefully protesting. Why are they doing these things to them? And I realized, and he saw us being called thugs and animals. Why are they calling them that? And he took it personally. And I said, okay, I'm going to write something else. The first one was this affirmation of worth, but with We Are Here, I needed like a callback, something that children can refer to in those moments when they may see, animal or thug or something terrible in the media. No. We are here. And here's the evidence. I shine a light on history, Black history, from here in America across the globe. So that's why I wrote the second book, but I still knew I wasn't done. So there's a third one coming. We can talk about that later though.
Wow. Well, I got to say, being a poet, like your words are beautiful and
Thank
powerful.
you.
Like you really did your thing. I was a little jealous and envious. I almost ain't want to do this talk because I was like, she wrote this amazing book, but no, I got love. But I'm really jealous that you got to work with, arguably,
Mr. Caldecott.
Yeah, the Caldecott, like he's the medal's coming shortly. It's coming shortly, but Bryan Collier is just such a dynamic force in children's literature, such a beautiful storyteller using visual melody. And so I'm curious, Bryan, how you ended up working with Tami and why you were moved by these words.
Well, Scholastic called me, said we have something for you. And that was the moment when I had a meeting at the office and Tami was there. And they had sent me the text. And I could hear the music and the musicality of the flow was there. That's my first attraction. Does it bounce? Does it dance? So because that turns me on. And also one of the things that tips the point to say, well, you probably should do this. And then just the beautiful words and the sentiment of it all. And I often read the text and then think about, well, once we get this up and it's done, the platform that we have, who are we going to speak to? And is that exciting when we get to the kids and you know, who we're actually talking to and talking for, you know, and talking with, you know, so there's some of the criteria for me to do the text. And then when I do a deep dive, and it's just what happened with the first book, All Because You Matter, I started painting ancestors around the boy, because you never walk in a room alone. You walk with everybody that loves you. Whether they're there or not, they're always around you. So I wanted to have that kind of conversation. So for all of us that feel lonely at times, and especially the children, don't. There's somebody made a place for you on the planet before you got here. And they made a way for you. And so you can't forget that. So, and then reading the text, it was just so beautiful. But then I said, we can't stop there. With All Because You Matter, we can't stop there, because now what we want you to do is for the children to read it back to the librarian, the teacher, the parent, the guardian, because they need to know that they matter as well. So it's a full circle thing that goes on with this book. And visually, that's what I try to capture, that circle. You know, so that was the first thing. And then with We Are Here, we're just going to nail down all the evidence. So you don't have to wonder. Our children don't have to wonder what contributions that they've had in this world. You know, there's big footsteps that you got to walk in, because there's monumental changes globally. It's not something local or a phenomenon, or even all the big names that you hear, like Dr. King and Marian Anderson and all those big accomplishments. They're all evidence. But what about a world without hip hop? What would it look like, really?
Boring.
Oh my gosh. It covers everything, the whole planet. So all those ideas, the fashion, the trendsetters, everything, you know, this is the evidence. You know, we are here. We've always been here. So there's a big, big celebration when I'm doing the work, and Tami's words I levitate.
Wow. Hey, look, did y'all have any communication during the process of you writing the poem or you illustrating the book? I got to know that.
Okay, Tam, you go first.
Well, let me start by saying, you don't, when you're Bryan Collier, you do not interrupt that process. I had nothing to do with anything. But what was really cool was for All Because You Matter, Bryan reached out, and typically illustrators, they need space to do their own thing. So, you know, I didn't need him to write it, so he didn't need me for the art, but it was really cool that he did involve me. He reached out and he said, hey, can you do a photo shoot, you and your son? You want to meet somewhere? So we met at a library upstate, and the librarians went crazy, by the way, when they realized that it was Bryan Collier in the building. They didn't know who I was, nor did they care. So we did a photo shoot, and he took pictures and did the what is that, like watercolor? See, I don't know.
Watercolor and
collage based on the pictures. So we did collaborate a bit for that. But for We Are Here, now I forget so We Are Here was during the pandemic.
Right.
And obviously we couldn't link up. So what he did do was he asked me to submit baby pictures of myself.
Yeah.
So I know this is your daughter, but this is kind of me too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I
needed a full body.
He blended us both.
Yeah, but with We Are Here, the conversations that Tammy and I had when she had mentioned grace. She just, and Tammy, I want you to fill in the blanks, but she's told me about a story about grace. So I took that little tidbit. I didn't tell her it was going to find its way into the book.
Oh,
but
it did.
I wanted to give her a gift. And, that's one of those rare moments where you can't escape it. You got to, that's the way I felt about it. I have to, present her with this idea. And Tammy, you tell the viewers about what that really means.
Grace. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Kwame, I don't even know if you know this story, but so All Because You Matter is written for my son. And as you know, when he was a little older and wiser and the pandemic hit, he came back with more questions. I saw that same kindergartner when he came to me, just in a bigger body. But it made me think of the child that I lost years ago, infertility struggle for many years. And it just made me think, what would I have said to my daughter in that moment? And it was like I almost saw her a little bit in Christopher when he came to me with these questions all over again. So yes, it was in response to these conversations with my son, but it was also me imagining what I would have said to my daughter. And that's where the idea kind of came from, all right, in the first book, we featured a boy. The second book, we feature a girl. And you'll see, this was the gift that Brian gave me. In the opening spread, there's a family of 4, which I'd like to think represents the family I would have had. We are a family of 3. But this balloon right here, this pink balloon, we were at NABA. We just missed you, by the way. Mm-hmm. We're at NABA presenting at the Children's Literature Breakfast. And that's where Brian told me the significance of the pink balloon was grace. And then you see in the book, now I lost it a little bit on stage, as you can imagine. That pink balloon, you see traces of it all throughout the book. And it's this reminder that you're not alone. There's always someone watching over you, wishing you well, wishing the best for you. So when he told me what the balloon was, I don't know, it was like, it was the healing that I didn't realize that I needed.
Wow.
Just writing this book. So yes, it was quite the gift.
That is part of the power of children's book illustrators and authors when we're using it to its fullest, is that we can turn woe into wonder.
Yes.
We can turn tragedy into triumph. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for your loss, Tammy. And just so I know how blessed we all are that you were able to create these stories, to use your words to find your way to some peace. So while I feel like that's a great way for the world, for all the viewers, for Haley, for Peaches and Sour Cream, for Elizabeth, for Fidel, for Kathy, for all these folks to hear this story. So Kathy, why don't you come back on, and Tammy, we're going to ask you to share We Are Here, and Kathy's going to show Brian's ebullient and just powerful beautiful illustrations.
Okay. There's Kathy. Okay. We Are Here, written by me and illustrated by the Bryan Collier. The journey of who we are stretches beyond rivers, roads, mountains, high-fiving blue skies. We were cool like that from the beginning of time, can't you see? We are seeds, you and me, roots thick with dreams and stars and possibilities. We turned numbers to seasons and patterns, tracked moons in outer space. From brick and grit, we built this place. Big hands, small hands, powerful in every way. We are joy igniting the world like stars, caliente and bright, like trumpets blaring at midnight. You hear that? Skit, scat, cattywhack? It's the music of our past. It's our rhythm and our blues, but you can't choose just one. Our joy is the anthem of life, heard on monument steps, opera stages, stadiums filled with thousands of faces. It's in the spice of our aisles, the soul of our food, feeding, connecting us across miles. That joy, that wonder, a burst of sun rays, laying the path for today and always. We are intercontinental, can't you see? With our strut and our style, trendsetters, go-getters, swagger that sweeps across the globe. We are multi-dialectical, oh, so intellectual. One heart, un alma, un esprit, muchas lenguas. We speak the language of books and streets, feet stamping concrete. Countless steps that set the world on fire as we sing and chant for all to remember our names. We are fearless more than we know. When the world closed its doors and worry set in, there we were, putting on our capes, springing to action again. Why is that so? Because you and me, we have always been heroes. The same ones who sat to take a stand, the ones who ran so we could fly. So it's no surprise, dear child, we are all of these things and so much more, no matter what they say, because someday when it's your turn to rule the world, people will be amazed and they will question the power of you. And when they do, you be sure to let them know you are brilliant, extraordinary, far beyond ordinary, the very best of who we are.
And I mean, bravo, bravo. So I noticed you got back matter there.
Yes, you
Tell
have
me
to.
about the back matter. Tell me about that.
Oh, you know, I could have done a whole dissertation on the back matter. I wanted to add more. So for the back matter, I featured, actually, that was kind of a collaborative effort between Brian and myself. When I talk about it's in the music of our past, that was Brian's idea to bring in Howlin' Wolf, Muddy Waters, Ella Fitzgerald. Marian Anderson was me, I think.
Yeah, and Dr. King.
Of course, we had to pay homage to Dr. King. I talk about the foods that come from Africa. You know, we have some good food.
Yes, absolutely.
Food is intercontinental. It's everywhere. You see our African influences in so many different foods, fashion, music. It's all in there. And then I even have like a small glossary with some of those non-English words, because again, we are everywhere. We're all over the globe. We speak all kinds of languages and we can do anything. So that's what that back matter is, just, you know, shining a light on some of our contributions, because there are many.
So I felt like there was a nod to Maya Angelou, Phenomenal Woman. Is that true or no?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, let me tell you, because some stuff didn't make it in the book, Kwame. There's a part where I say, I was kind of talking about you. Okay, here we go. We speak the language of books and streets. I'm talking about you, Kwame. I'm talking about authors who I admire, like Jacqueline Woodson, Elizabeth Acevedo, Jason Reynolds. Like, I wanted that in there. So now you know that's who I'm referring to. Like, I'm paying homage to Maya and Tony, you know, OGs. But then I'm also paying homage to like the new cats.
Cool.
Like,
so can we get some royalties in?
Oh, we had to talk about that.
Ah, hey Brian.
Yes.
Uh, um, Elizabeth wants to know if you can talk a little bit about your process for these just illustrious, these beautiful illustrations.
Well, for sure I can. For this particular book, We Are Here, I was inspired by one of my favorite painters named John Biggers. Um, and he did these these shotgun houses, um, and one of his well-known paintings. And with how it applied to this particular project was, I said, okay, my process, let's build an apparatus and upon which we can hang these beautiful words that Tami has written upon that'll hold it all. So when you look at the shotgun houses and they become a timeline, they also build community. So all these themes are swirling around in this text: community, time, a timeline, a time machine, themes, because we was going through space and time trying to collect and reveal all these wonderful moments of evidence. So that's what these shotgun houses sort of represent. So at the top, you may see nothing up there, and then you may see a nod to one of the books I'd done earlier called Dave the Potter. You'll see a pot in front of the house. It was a clay pot made by an enslaved artist who wrote poetry on these clay pots 200 years ago. So we start there, and then we slowly build down into the people that we're talking about. We're building community. And I want everyone to see the vastness and the beauty of it when it's all collected and gathered in one project that we have here. And we could go on for days. There's so many people, like Tami said, we could add and put in front of these houses and create this tapestry of beauty and evidence and truth, you know. So that's part of the process. How do I get out of the way and create a space where we can talk about all these things and it works, you know? So we can do a big house or a collection of a village and tell the story, you know. So I had a ball, and like I said, we could go on forever and just
Wow.
start building.
Wow. So I just did this book that Tami so graciously has behind her called An American Story.
Yes.
I work with a debut illustrator, Brian, and we got down to the cover and I had some issues with it. And I sent it back to her 6 times. Said, no, change it, change it, change it. And I knew she could do better. And part of it was mentoring for me, for trying to help her get to a place where I knew she could get. And I felt like she did it. I wonder, in working with Tami, who's not a newbie, but your legacy, you are legend. You've been at this when many of us were trying to figure out how to do it, and you were a model. Did you consider that part of this was you mentoring Tami in any way? I'm just curious. I know it's an out of the left field question, but I just wonder, is any of that involved?
That happens when Tami and I are doing a project. We're on the road doing signings and we're talking about moves, because that's all a part of it. That's all a part of it. I mean, I remember when I first started, nobody could tell me how to go from point A to point B. I had to figure it all out. And that was me going from door to door to every publisher in New York City once a week for 7 years,
Right.
until somebody opened the door.
Right.
You know, so when Tami and I are on our way to somewhere, or we're sitting signing, and we're talking about, well, if you go out and do a signing, you probably need to look for this and look for that and watch out for this. So we talk about strategy, because that's just sharing. Everybody shared with me later on, like Jerry Pinkney and Ashley Bryant, and you know, all those great illustrators and authors, even Jacqueline Woodson and everyone else. You know, they all have like little gems that we share with each other when we can get together and in the same space and really talk about it. That's part of that mentoring that you're talking about, you know.
Wow, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Haley Keener has the following question. She's a middle school teacher, and she wants to know, Tami, how do you envision these books being used in schools for middle and high school students in particular, as well as younger readers?
This is my kind of question.
Yeah.
Because I taught for 14 years. And with a book like this, first of all, picture books can absolutely be used in older classrooms like middle school and high school. I think they teach so much like plot and story components. You know, with this one, this is a poem. I think that teachers can certainly teach different poetic devices. But the history nerd in me, I would love for teachers to use this book and dissect some of those stanzas. And you know how when you asked me earlier, Kwame, was I giving a nod to Maya Angelou? Why, yes, I was. But maybe allow the students to, you know, envision, who was I talking about in this particular stanza? Who do you think, you know, who in history was Tami talking about? For example, I love these examples. There's a spread. Now you don't see it in the art, but in the words, I say, it's the one with the anthems. Our joy.
Oh, the monument steps.
Yeah, this one. This spread right here. You see Dr. King and you see Marian Anderson, but the stanza says, our joy is the anthem of life, heard on monument steps, opera stages, stadiums filled with thousands of faces. You know who I was talking about there? I was like 2020, in 2020, I was, you know, today years old when I learned that the first Black Olympian was Haitian. I forget the year. I had it all written out. And, you know, my husband's Haitian. So like we've got that going. And I was just so fascinated to learn, like, wow. So when I say stadiums filled with thousands of faces, I'm talking about him. Constantine Enriquez is his name. He was born in Haiti, but he played under the French flag. So that was a nod to him. In the classroom, take some of these stanzas and try to predict who I was talking about, or come up with your own examples. I know, I'm a dork.
No, that's great. That's so great. That's great.
Fascinated though. I was like, wow. Yeah, he was the first one. And he won. I think he got like a bronze medal or silver medal. Like that's exciting. Like I wanted to tell my son that. Like I was happy to share that with him.
Well, I think that's great because I think the picture books in an older classroom it's a launch point for them to drill down, you know, and re-examine what they thought they knew about history or what they think they know about a Dr. King or Marian Anderson. If you drill down, you'll find something brand new that no history book has talked about. I find that when I do research, because of course Tami has tons of research that she does for her writings, but as the illustrator, I do research equally as well, you know, because I'm examining to test it and taste to see if it's the truth or not as well. So I think picture books are a perfect example of what a launch point could be to drill down and expand your idea and your knowledge about a particular subject matter.
Bryan, why are you in this children's book industry? Why are you a storyteller? Why are you an artist who creates worlds for kids? Why do you do this?
Oh, I do this because I was a spell was cast upon me by reading one of my favorite books called, as a kid at age 4, Snowy Day and Harold and the Purple Crayon. And then epiphany happened 4 years ago from the same books that I read when I was 4. I saw something brand new in it. And take example, the Snowy Day by Ezra Jack Keats, how the boy Peter, well, when I was 4 and I saw Peter and Peter looked at me and I looked at him, we were twins. And I knew what that felt like. It was a pop that happened. And I knew about snowy days, and he went outside and he said he walked with his toes pointed in like this and his toes pointed out. And I watched it, and he dragged his feet slowly. He made tracks. He laid down in the snow and made snow angels in the snow. He made a snowman and he put a snowball in his pocket. Well, 4 years ago, I looked at that same text. I said, wait a minute. That boy's dream walking. He's not playing in the snow. He's creating with his feet. All the different patterns. We get lost. I saw the snow for 45 years. And then 4 years ago, I saw the patterns, the creativity. That's that storytelling. And when we can jump over to Harold and the Purple Crayon, when he draws from moment to moment, he reached up and he hung the moon in the sky. Oh, he's storytelling with just a crayon. Mm. He's dream walking. He's creating from moment to moment. That's the magic I'm chasing. And that's that you can't outgrow a picture book, no matter what. You keep looking at it and reading it long enough, you see something brand new.
Well,
so either the book changed or you change, one or the other. So that's what excites me about storytelling. And when Tami shows up with this musicality, now we go, oh, we gotta waltz, we're gonna dance together now. I'm gonna run a visual storyline that's parallel to her text. I don't have to mimic it all the time. I just leave enough space for that reader to sit down and get in it. And that's your space to create, to see something that I didn't see. It may take you 40 years. Keep reading it. It'll show up.
Folks, we listening to a certified genius. It's pure and simple.
Yes, sure.
Hey, Dare. I'm saying Dare. I'm on tour with Dare, so she's on my mind.
The audience.
Tami. Oh, she is? Yes.
She's watching you.
Hey, Tami.
I got your book up, Dare. It's beautiful.
Tami, we're gonna follow on. We're gonna keep on with that metaphor that Bryan started. Why do you like making words dance on the page? Why are you in this industry to create stories that are going to engage and hopefully inspire young people? Why are you in this children's book industry and writing stuff that matters? Why?
I feel like this is a common thread for creators of color, but when I was growing up, I used to devour books. My parents gave me books all the time. And very much like you, Kwame, my mom was the teacher, then the vice principal, and then the principal at my school. So imagine that. But I loved books. She gave me books all the time. But the problem was I was just reading the same kind of books. These kids didn't look like me. They didn't live in the neighborhoods that I lived in. I didn't see that until I started teaching. That's literally how I discovered Kwame Alexander, Rita, Jacqueline, like seriously, Meg Medina. I would have given anything to read the crossover when I was 12. I was reading Sweet Valley High twins with their perfect lives and their perfect hair and perfect convertibles driving off in the sunset. I didn't have that. I went to school in Newark. I wasn't reading those kind of books, that I wanted to read. It didn't happen until I started teaching. So I discovered books like yours, Kwame, with my students. And I turned them into book lovers the same way my mom did that for me. Only this time they got to see themselves. So it was like normal, like you've written books where it's like this diversity. This is just normal. I didn't have that growing up. So of course I want to be a part of this movement. Diverse books for all kids and seeing a kid light up when they see themselves in the book or they see their friends or their community reflected. Yeah, I want in on that. I want a seat at the table because I would have loved that. And I like to write. So, I'm following in your footsteps, Kwame. That's what I'm doing.
And you do it so well. And speaking of Dare culture, she just got on the bus.
Hey!
I love your book. It's beautiful.
Well, look, this man is a brilliant writer, so I'm honored to be a part of it. But since you're talking about representation, I really want to tag on and say Bryan Collier, the illustrator of Knock Knock. Knock Knock is one of my favorite books ever. And when you talk about representation and telling our stories, there's a lot of pain that's a part of our stories. But because of the way that the system was built, something like Gel is a part of so many of our stories because we're targeted for that, right? So it's like in the same way that we're targeted for bad things as far as the system is concerned, I love that we are making objectives to target ourselves for good and for joy and for positivity, because if not us, then who, right?
Correct. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, this ain't about Derek. This is about them. Go back to work.
All right, bye, guys.
Go back to work.
Thank you, Kwame.
Hey, Brian, what's your favorite word?
Favorite word? That's, oh my gosh. You just,
God, don't ask me this question.
well, I'll tell you what. I've been talking about this dream walk thing forever, for recent times, and it sounds like it's 2 words, but it's really 1. Dream walk.
Dream walk. It's beautiful. Yeah. It's beautiful. Reminds me, you know who reminds me of, right?
Who?
Langston Hughes.
Yeah. That
dream catcher, dreams, bird dreams. Yeah.
Tammy, yes,
Tammy, what's your favorite word?
You can't ask me that. Can I say sentence? Can I say a sentence? Okay, beautiful. I got a favorite sentence. So I write down my goals every year, and then my goals have a theme. So I was thinking about what do I want for myself for 2023, and this is a theme that I came up with, and that is to do less but make more. You can interpret that a bunch of different ways, but here's what I mean by that. When I say do less, I want to not overwhelm myself, because the past couple years, this pandemic has been a lot. So I want, by make more, I want more joy, more time for rest, more connections. And especially I want to make a bigger impact.
So you want to Afro minimalize. Look at me shouting out Christine Platt. All right. Hey, Brian, what's a sound you like?
Oh, a sound. I like the sizzle of ribs.
Oh.
At the barbecue, that sizzle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sizzle of ribs. Tammy, what's the sound you like?
Oh man. Especially in the morning, I like the sound of flutes. I have like a spa playlist that I play. Got it. There's a lot of flutes and like violins. I just like peaceful music in the morning.
Word. Tammy, give us one book we can all go read for Black History Month that you think we should check out.
Oh my God. Don't ask me that. Let me see.
Okay, I know this one. I really, really like those stories about pioneers that you've just never heard of. We have a lot of Dr. King books, and of course they are important. But I'm just going to shout out Dave the Potter because I never knew who that was. Brian, I'm telling you, like that's my favorite book of yours. Anytime I sit down to start a new picture book, I pull that out, that one, and Drum Dream Girl every time.
Beautiful, beautiful. Brian, a book you recommend for Black History Month? One book.
Carlton Whitehead, Underground.
Word. Yeah. There you go, people. Hey, look, people, we are here because you all matter.
Oh, I like what you did there.
All because you matter. That's why we're here.
Yes.
So the books matter. These beautiful writers and illustrators matter. The kids matter. The teachers matter. Brian talked about community. Brain Layer Books has given us this opportunity to come together in unity. Community. We love y'all. At the end of the day, we want you all to go out and buy these books for your kids, for your classrooms, for your libraries. Support these authors and illustrators. Kid Lit for Black Lives. Children's literature is all about helping young people imagine a better world. And that's why we're here, because you matter. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Kathy, we are out of here. Brain Layer Books has all these books. Y'all can order them online. The link is somewhere, but go to brainlayerbooks.com. None but love. Kathy, take us home. But first, you got to come off mute, Kathy.
You guys can jump off the screen and go home. We appreciate you. That was amazing. I'm just going to let you go do your thing. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Please support our creators. We want them to continue writing books. We want them to continue illustrating books. And we need this. So if you could buy the books from us so that we can continue doing these events. If you don't have to, if you have a local bookstore by you, please support that local bookstore. That's what we want more than anything. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us.